Just
Hello,
said,
Akiyahu, Yedidia, and Rav. I think Rav is
Shalom,
he's trying
shalom.
to. Shalom. Where are you guys from? Are you? I'm sure you are from America, but which part?
Shalom, Sister Replica. We're in Texas.
Ah,
Yes.
Austin. Is it
No, not
Austin?
Austin. No, not Austin. Uh, more closer to the Dallas area. But
Okay, that's
where,
nice.
where,
Welcome.
where, thank you. Where are you located at in India?
In Goa, the West Coast.
Check it to see if it's
Oh, okay. Glad to hear you safe.
Thank you.
So,
Shalom,
shalom,
Juliet.
shalom.
Oh,
Shalom,
shalom.
Jam.
Shalom to you, Rabbi.
Amazing, amazing. So as you guys know, there's Israel's been under heavy attack
yeah,
the last 48 hours. I think there's close to 10 to 13 Israelis that have died, been basically murdered by these attacks, and close to like 200 people injured. Um, just to give you a little bit of like just how like real the whole situation is. So Friday night, I moved into the new place. It's like a huge, like very big, like um, like extremely like spacious and this whole thing. So the thing is, inside of my, it's like it's a studio. It's like a luxury building, right? And so inside of it, I have a room that is what they call a mamad, right? Which is like basically a bomb shelter. So I have it inside of my house. Now the thing is, I didn't realize that the building that I'm in, which is only like a few floors, but it's all like basically like young Israelis, who live in a building, whatever. So I think there's people who are American, like American parents, whatever. Anyways, so we knew earlier in the day that Iran was sending suicide drones, right? And suicide drones are basically these kind of like flying, air drone. You got drones in America, but they have explosives to them, right? So they just basically just go straight and they just run into whatever they run into and they explode. This is suicide drones, right? So we knew that they were coming, and we just kind of like took the position where it's like, all right, when it comes, whatever, blah blah blah, and then you know, whatever. So the point is just saying that. Um, the point is just saying that so when the sirens start going off and everything started happening, it was all these people rushed into my apartment, right? And it was just like, whoa, right? So it was like that happened. So my whole bomb shelter's full with people, right? That I don't even know, but we all made friends. And then second, I'm out, and then I go out on the balcony. And so where I live at is like literally in between where the Knesset is, which is like the governmental building, and also where Bibi Netanyahu's house is, right? So we're in between that. So obviously there's a lot of protection here, but there's also a big target. So I go out to the balcony because we're just hearing boom, 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 just going off, right? And then we're seeing lights. So I go out on the balcony with some of the guys, and we're looking at it, and then we're standing there. And as we're there, literally coming down our street, I'm talking about the drones that got in, and they're flying underneath the radar, right? So we're literally like dealing with like drones that are underneath, like house level, not like up in the sky, right? They're not shooting anything; they run into. So, anyways, Bekitzer, the point is, so we're standing out on the balcony, and then this thing is coming towards us. We're like, is this real? It's coming, and it keeps going, 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 and a light, you can hear it. Like we're like, and then at this point, everyone on my block, I live in a place called Nakalot, right? Nakalot is like it's very like kind of young, hippie type of like cool environment, whatever. But the thing is just saying that. So we're out on the balcony, and this thing keeps coming and getting louder and louder and louder, and we realize like, oh my god, that's a suicide drone. Like, you know what I mean? Like we just like looking at it, and out of nowhere, F-35 jet comes in, debris all over the place. Literally, is the craziest thing I've ever experienced. The whole block, because everyone's on their balcony watching this fireworks show. Everyone on the block starts cheering. This is Shabbat night. Everybody's, even people who are not religious, keeping Shabbat right now. You know what I mean? And so everybody in Naklot is like on their balconies. You know what I mean? Because we're right by the Knesset. You know, very close to the Knesset at least. And this whole thing. So we're right here, and then literally we're on Shabbat night, and everybody starts cheering and celebrating. The whole block. It's I can't even explain what it was like that type of thing. So that's just kind of like an insight, just to my personal experience, the one that you know. But it's a definite thing. But there's a flip side to it, right? And I'm going to bring a video actually from the Rav Berg, talking about Iran in 1991 and the final redemption, and how the final redemption is connected to the coordinates of Iran, why they're connected to Iran. So we're going to learn that about that. He says it in the frame of Pesach, but a lot of people here have somewhat of a background with the Kabbalah Center and these types of things. I'm not endorsing it, but this is a rabbi whose teachings touched me and led me, to become. I met many other rabbanim on my journey. So I'm sharing it in the frame of, this is a person who's a Kabbalist who was a little bit outside of the box, and was rejected and even put in harem by certain people, right? But the point is just saying, nevertheless, many people like him were reading the texts that were written, thousands of years before, and they talk about exactly what's happening right now. And so we're just going to touch on that a little bit. But the point is saying bigger than that, right? Bigger than that, we have to understand what's really happening, right? Because what's happening now is bigger than military, it's bigger than war. This is God, right? And we're talking about God's revealment. The basis of Christianity, we talked about this before, the basis of Christianity was this idea that after the second temple was destroyed, that Hashem left the Jewish people. They were no longer connected to God. And there was this new covenant, and this new covenant, basically nullified the Torah, God forbid, and it's this whole new set of ideas, the whole thing, right? But it was based off of this beliefs. And then that movement grew, became this huge, big thing, right? Then later, another religion came called Islam, right? And Islam came with a similar idea. It's like, hey, you know what? The Jews, they had their time, God's no longer with them. The Christians came, they took over, look at all these big churches they built, and now it's our time. Muhammad came, he's the end of all the prophets, and this is the new covenant with the people of the world, and this is the reality, right? Now, our books, the Tanakh, talks about, it prophecies, our prophets prophesize that we would go into exile, we would go into different aspects of this exile, and then eventually we're going to return back to Israel. Everyone laughed at that, right? That was the whole concept of Purim with Haman and Achashverosh. Achashverosh's meal was celebrating the fact that the prophecy said that the Jews are going to rebuild the temple, and it wasn't happening. And so they were making fun of it. And so they threw a banquet for months celebrating it, and the Jews participated. That's part of the judgment against them. So all these things this is nothing new, right? Iran and the Jews. This is Purim, right? This is Purim. Iran and the Jews. I mean, it's right there, right? And the Persians and the Jews, right? And so now we're here. So what's going on now is that this is a massive, massive movement of unification, right? Meaning that when you saw President Donald Trump go over, U.S. President Donald Trump go over to Saudi Arabia, what did he do? He allied all the Gulf countries, right? UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, right? The Gulf states, right? All of them came together. United States is already allied with Egypt and Jordan and Israel. Now Syria has a new leader, Jelani, who used to be ISIS, but he's repentant. He's working for the team, and you have Syria now, and they're also joining the Abraham Accord. So we're talking about a complete unification of these nation states in the Middle East. Right now, people don't realize how much water Israel gives to Jordan, how much electricity and other things they provide to Egypt, right? So these countries have been working with each other forever. When Trump talks about a freedom zone in Gaza, when you look at Gaza and the relationship of Gaza as it relates to Israel, proper Israel, as it relates to proper Jordan and proper Egypt, Gaza's right in the middle of that. Once you turn that place into a freedom zone, you're talking about shared resources across these borders, trade, business, opportunity, innovations in healthcare. You know, like Jordan has one of the biggest cancer research centers for children, right? There's so many ways that these countries could be helping with it, but because of dogmatic Islamic fundamentalism, they can't even work with each other. It's not like it's just the issue with the Jews and the Arabs. The Jews, the Arabs, the Persians, they've been fighting each other. How long Iran and Iraq went to war? Who's giving Iraq the money? Saudi to fight who? The Persians. They've been fighting. So, anyways, so let's go into this video. You know, and like I said, I choose the sources that I want to do. A lot of people in this class, you know, they learn from the Kowalski and learn from Robert. And I'm saying, I know everyone's listening. A lot of people are listening to my Cheerum now, these different things. And they may disagree with it, but this is my journey, right? This is how I got here. These are teachers that influenced me. And some of those teachers were popular amongst the masses and some weren't, right? So anyways, before we go forward, does anybody have any questions, any statements about anything that's going on here?
No, it's just Baruch Hashem that you're well, and that all those with you are well.
Rav, I have a question. What is
Yeah.
the extent of the damage in Jerusalem?
In Jerusalem?
Yeah.
It wasn't so much damage in Jerusalem per se. I mean, there definitely was debris. Majority of the damage, from what I understand, happened in Tel Aviv, also in the north, and also in Haifa. Right, those are the main areas that really had the brunt of the force. You know, Jerusalem's an interesting area because, as much as it's, you know, you have the Knesset here and other places, it's still, you know, to a lot of the Muslims, it's still considered a very holy place. You know what I mean? So, what that means to the militants, I don't know, this type of thing, but it's not, from what I understand so far, I didn't know of any injuries that happened in Jerusalem, or, you know, God forbid, deaths. But in Tel Aviv is, you know, they're focused over there. You know, they're focused at attacking Tel Aviv and some of these other places. But yeah, so it's a crazy time, and it's you know, we trying to you know, reconcile that, you know, because at the end of the day, what we're watching is like Israel is becoming the power of the Middle East. In 1948, 1967, they could never even imagine a thought. If you went in 1967 and say, hey, you know what, in 2025, Israel is going to be the most dominant country in this entire region, is going to destroy all of its enemies in Lebanon, is going to destroy all of its enemies in the so-called Palestinian resistance, is going to destroy Syria, entire Syria's military, is going to go in partnership with Saudi Arabia, it's going to go in partnership with Jordan. It's going to go in partnership with the UAE. It's going to go in partnership with Syria. It's going to go in partnership with Qatar. And they're all going to do business together. If you said that in 1967, you think anybody would have said anything that you're nuts? That can never happen. The Arabs will never allow that to happen. The United States isn't that strong. And we're sitting here watching it. This isn't like a movie. This is real life. Like, you're literally watching the power of the world shifting right in front of your eyes. That's going to affect hundreds of years to come, right? And, you know, before we go to video, you know, we were learning in a shir in you know, in our yeshiva, that we're learning about preemptive war, right? You know, and it talks about preemptive war and what's the role of the Jew in the era of you know, in the era of the state of Israel. What does it mean, the Jewish army? What does it mean, you know, these different, you know, Jewish army, these different things, you know, what's the role of the Jew in the times of conflict? But one of the underneath things that I learned inside of that responsa on preemptive war is the fact that when you really look at it, the Jewish people were the only people, Israel was the only nation that was given permission by God to have an army, right? Even though there's many nations, they went to war with Israel, you know, they fought, they had weapons, they had people that the God says to form an army, to build this, to do these things, is the Jewish people. And that should give us the insight that when everything is said and done, the only military that will exist in the world is Israel. And it's not just limited to what we see now. There's millions upon millions of people around the world that when the light of Mashiach comes into this world, when it's fully conceived, they're going to run to defend truth, right? People that we thought were Gentiles are going to turn out to be just like us, right? But they didn't know. They didn't know that their soul was elevated and they needed truth. They didn't know, right? And so this is where we're at, right? And I would ask, as we go into this class, for everyone to kind of like think about what additional mitzvah they could take on, right? Like whether it's learning a little bit extra, whether it's doing some type of project to help others, something that we can do for the nation, right? I'm talking about in terms of doing something good for another person, something that a mitzvah that Hashem says, hey, you know what? This mitzvah that this Jew is doing in the framework of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai, right? Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai, all these different elements, right? That all these, I just got distracted. Someone just came in the room. But all these elements that we see, it's like this is happening, right? And so we are one collective nation, right? Right now, every single Jew is in danger. And even if you live in a neighborhood and people don't know you're Jewish, the angels that control the people in your neighborhood are against you, right? Because you're watching good take over evil. Evil is resisting. This is evil. What Iran is doing is evil. One of the biggest things that's happening on the social media, like in these groups like Clubhouse, these apps, these discussion-based apps, is that you have the Iranians on these social media apps, right? On these social media apps, trying to talk to the pro-Palestinian people, and they're trying to talk to them to not go against Israel because it's only hurting us. I'm watching this. And the Arabs who are pro-Palestinian and want to just hate Jews, they're fighting with each other because the Persians are saying, please, can you guys chill, fall back. We understand you guys are emotional. Babies are dead in Gaza, the whole thing, blah, 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 the whole thing. And so, but right now, what Israel is doing is saving us. They said last week alone, they were just cutting off people's hands that were using social media to give out news about what's going on in Iran. They're cutting their hands off in public. This is a type of evil. There's women being murdered, killed. I don't want to say the R word, but because they don't want to wear scarves. We're going to talk about most of the terrorism that's happening in Africa, killing Christians, killing other people. Do you realize that it's Hezbollah and Iranian officials that are training Boko Haram, that are training these people in Africa, that are using the bank accounts there, they're using just to destabilize it so they're in control? When you see the influences of what's going on in Nigeria, these places, do we realize that what's happening is this? When we look at the resistance, right? Look at all these countries that want to work together, right? The Gulf countries, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all these countries want to work together. Syria wants to work together. Egypt wants to work together. Israel wants to work together. Jordan wants to work together. Everyone wants to work together. So why aren't they? What's stopping it? Iran. Iran is funding the groups in Hezbollah who took over Lebanon and killed all the Christians there. They took over Lebanon. Now the government has been able to take their power back there. But they have no interest in the Lebanese people. They don't care about building their society. They care about fighting Israel. That's their job. And they're trained and funded by Iran. Hamas, the leader Sinwar, one of the most evil men to ever walk in our generation, says we would not be here if it wasn't for the support of the Iranians. This is against American interests. It's not just an Israel issue. Having an issue with Israel is having an issue in America. The Houthis in Yemen. Look what they did to that. Look what they did to Yemen. You see, people talk about the aggression against Israel. People need to talk about the aggression these people have against the people that they're occupying. They're occupying. We got our deal. We got our land from the United Nations, from the British. The British conquered the Ottoman Empire. They took the land. They were here. They wanted to leave. So they said, hey, we're going to give some of the land to the Arabs, some of the land to the Jews. The Jews took the land. The Arabs said, no, you guys don't have a right to distribute our land. It's Muslim land. That's their position. So now, 70, 80 years later, what do they want? A two-state solution. You had a two-state solution. So that understanding that there's a movement in the Middle East that wants to resist the West, that does not want unification, that does not want commerce, that does not want a moderate form of Islam that's not based around radicalism and fundamentalism. There's a resistance movement to that. And that's what we're up against. Every Jew and every freedom-loving human being on planet Earth, right? That's what we're up against. And as Iran falls, China, who's also a cruel dictator to its people, and Russia, who we see what Putin is doing. Removing Iran's ability to sit at the table by not having a nuclear weapon allows us to have dominance. And I'll say this before we go into the video. The issue is with people, when people say that they don't support what Israel's doing, it's not just the fact that some of them just don't like Jews, right? It's not just that. It's the fact that people are against Western dominance. They're against it. And they say Western dominance is evil and it's wrong and it's colonialist and these things. But you know what? I've traveled around the world, lived different places. I will take the American people over any people on planet Earth. We're the most diverse society. We are the most inclusive society. We are the best talent from every part of the world has come to America and made innovations. Whether a person's Indian, whether they're African, whether they're European, whether they're Russian, what Chinese, whatever that. The United States is a platform that needs to be spread around the world. The society that you see in America is the same society that Israel is creating. The same society you see in America is the same society that even the UK, in Britain, and many European countries, they're trying to. Some are like Putin, and they believe in nationalism and nationality and these other types of things, right? You know, and so we want to welcome Jacob ben Abraham back, you know, in Israel. He's a long friend of mine. He's with us. He's learning with us right now. But you know, I'm gonna start doing classes actually here too now because I couldn't do it before, you know, because of the living transition. So now I have a really nice spatial place, and so I'm giving weekly shirim here. I'm doing big Shabbat stuff every week. You know, just lighting it up, right? But he's here with us, and he was in Budapest and he experienced abuses, you know, because of the same mentality of nationalism. Of segregation. Is that right? Is it fair to say that? Yeah.
But also, like, you know, how it's all about, you know, it's basically money talks.
Money talks. She's saying they want to create problems so you have to pay money to them, and that's how they do it. Yeah, corruption. It's corruption. So, anyways, luckily he's here. Hashem sent some angels and brought him back to Eretz Israel. So God willing, he never leaves again. But he's a man, he makes his own decisions. But either way, he's my brother, and we're here together. So anyways, so the point is this thing. So that's what we're dealing with, right? That's what we're dealing with, and that's what we're up against. And this is right, and this is Torah. I haven't opened up anything yet. This is Torah. What we're watching, this is Torah. And as a Jew, we have to understand that every single day is Torah. This is Torah for us. The same struggles. We're fighting. The second when we received the Torah was when we were fighting against the Persians. But guess what? When we were fighting against them, we were in Persia. We were in Sushan. Now we're in Eretz Israel. Yeah. Now we're in Eretz Israel. So this is part of this redemption. Okay, so let's go into this video. Let's learn a little bit. It's wild stuff, but we're hyped. You know, I mean, the nerves get going. You know what I mean? Like when you sitting there, and you're like, "Hey, man, they sending missiles at you." You know what I'm saying? That's one this whole thing. Okay, can you guys see the screen? No. Yes.
We see. We see like your app screen. We don't see anything else. You see the app screen.
You can see it now. You can see it now, the video.
We can't see the video. We
Just got it. Okay, so let's do this. Let's check this out.
Now we go to Daniel. We know that Daniel was at the time of the destruction of the first temple, and Daniel also was there at the time of Esther and Mordechai. We only know that because, again, the Zohar tells us that the word Hatach, or as we know it to be a code name for Kahat, is that word which is mentioned up there, Kahat, is a code name for Daniel. So we know that he was also at the time of Purim. In chapter 8, it says in verse 1, in the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar, the King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, says Daniel. And he repeats, Ani Daniel, and I am Daniel, and this is me that is talking. And I saw in the vision, I was in Shushan, the castle, or the Shushan Habirah, which was at that time the main city, which was in Elam. At that time, it wasn't even referred to yet as Elam. And I was sitting near the stream called Ulai. I lifted up my eyes and I saw before me, stood before the stream, a ram. A ram. The Aries, the ram, which had 2 horns. I haven't seen a ram with 1 horn yet, unless it's it's an abnormal ram, so maybe it can have one horn. According to chapter 8, and there were 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. One was higher than the other. All the commentators, when they are discussing the horns, are obviously, does Daniel have to come and tell us about 2 horns? Are we interested? Wouldn't we understand that a ram has 2 horns? And then it's important to know that one was a little higher than the other. And all the commentators on this particular verse say that it's talking about Persia, Paras, because already it became known as Paras in the time of Ezekiel, and also Madai, which is Iraq. And they say that the horn, which was higher, represents, this is the commentators, again, out of a coded message, this is what sages can do. Like Rabbi Shimon and others can read into these words, and by their divine inspiration, channeling information, they know how to decipher, to decodify what is written. Because what is written certainly doesn't say what they're saying. Although we have many questions about his dream. I mean, it's so silly. But what they meant was, one was higher, meaning Persia was higher than Iraq, than Babylonia. All right? And the higher came up last. There were two horns, one higher than the other, and the higher came up last. What do you mean? Okay, that's what he says. The higher came up last. What does it mean? Also say the sages that first there would be an Iraq, and then there would be a Persian. That happened at the time of Mordechai and Esther. There was first an Iraq, Babylonia, Nebuchadnezzar, and then he was defeated by the first Cyrus. He was defeated by the first Cyrus. And then Persia came up. It rose second or last. He still didn't finish his dream yet. Oh, he's now describing what the dream was. Ra'iti et ha'ayel menageach yama v'tzofona v'negba. And I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward. Not eastward. What does it mean? Three directions. Three directions. To tell us that the force and power of Persia extended then in these directions, not the other way. The other way, eastward, would of course be China and so on. That would be eastward. No, it would be pushing westward. And furthermore, he says, V'kol hachayot lo yamdu lefanav, and no beast can stand before him. Neither could anyone deliver themselves out of his hand. Ve'ein matzil miyado. Va'asa kitzono v'higdil. And the force would be so strong that there was no one that could stand up against him. The dream is still going on, but we don't want to miss every part that the sages are discussing. Again, is he discussing a point in history, or is he teaching us the future as well as the past and present? As we know, where did Rabbi Shimon get his information? As you know, Rabbi Shimon mentions, and I forgot for the moment where it is, but I will find it again, that at the end of days, as in the past, this already happened. The Persian Empire extended east, west, and north. That's already an historical fact. And then the Persian Empire was destroyed by Alexander the Great, who was the ruler over the Greek Empire. Is that what Daniel wants to tell us? No. Because according to the Zohar, Daniel and all of Daniel is discussing the age of Mashiach. As you know, Daniel and a little of Ezekiel are the only books of prophets, but more so Daniel, that is written in Aramaic. Written in Aramaic, an old language. Is Aramaic a part of the Jewish language? If anyone thinks that it's only spoken in Kurdistan, making a mistake, because the whole Talmud was written in Aramaic. So this is not reserved just to a part of Persia. The entire Talmud. Not only the entire Talmud, we might even include the entire Zohar, was also written in Aramaic. Does that mean they were writing according to the language of the day? No, because they use the Hebrew language. Remember, language has sounds. A bet, b, bet, b. Well, you can call it b, you can call it bet. But the Hebrew language was used in the Talmud and in the Zohar. And Daniel, about 85% of Daniel is written in Aramaic. This is written not just merely to record history, but this is a complete message coded, which the Zohar interpreted and drew most of its information. And in the Zohar, it says that from Persia, in the end of days, hello? Getting back to the Zohar, the Zohar takes out from this idea that the ram, not an ox, not a goat, and we'll soon come to the goat, but it could be a lion. I mean, it could have been any other animal. The ram. Says the Zohar that at the end of days, and it's obvious where we are now, even I return to the idea of the two rams, which I didn't, two horns. It was inevitable that Iran and Iraq will always be at odds with each other. Always be at odds with each other. Daniel forecasted that. Not only then, if we only listen to Saddam Hussein, he said, "Who am I? Nebuchadnezzar." I mean, could he be more clear? Yet 2% of the people picked it up. Because we don't listen. We don't listen what's being said. History always repeats itself. And what Daniel is telling us, and more importantly, for our day. For our day. Because again, Persia will go forth. And the Zohar confirmed it when he said that the last king of the Muslims will be the king of Persia. It makes it so clear. Now, he's written this 2,000 years ago. And he didn't tell it to us just...
Are you guys hearing this? Like, do you hear what's being said right now? This isn't a movie, right? Like, this is really happening.
To make life interesting. He's trying to give us a message. Well, what's the message? You mean just that we know now what... I know now how history will unfold. Is that what's important? No. No. The Zohar always provides us with the track, the cassette of events, and tells us what is going to happen. It tells us when the Mashiach makes its appearance, what we should expect. We have signs. We will know when he makes his appearance. There will be signs. And terrible things will happen. Why is the Zohar telling us? All right, so terrible things will happen, so let's all sit back and wait for the terrible things to happen. No. The reason the Zohar mentions these specific ideas is to tell us we can do something about it. We can do something about it. Not let it happen the way it should. And more importantly today, we see, I should say not in the Western world, unfortunately, not yet, But there is only one danger left for human civilization. What Daniel said. These people from Persia, we can say maybe the Shiites, will go out, spread their religion, their brand of religion, all over the world, and as they.
He's talking about terrorism. Like he's literally like the Zohar is giving us the blueprint of how things are going to manifest in this era. And he's talking about Persia. You can say anybody. He says the last king of the Muslims are going to be this. This is the end. The last king. What are we at right now? Who's the king of the Muslim world? Who's the most powerful force?
Are presently doing, including the United States, because only a few weeks ago there was an article in Newsweek of the quiet conversion of Christians to Islam. Would you ever believe that a Western mentality can convert to Islam? That there is a tremendous growth. Has it gone north? Yes. What will topple Russia ultimately is what's happening, and they're afraid of it. The enormous, this tremendous population of Shiites within the Republic of Russia, the southern part, or north of Persia. And Daniel is telling us it's wrapped up with the ram. It's wrapped up with the ram. Why did he choose a ram? He could have just given us a description without using the ram. Tell us two nations. Instead of putting so much in code, why didn't he make it clear to us? Because he wanted to include more than the description. Because when he used the word ram and two horns, he's also giving us a clue about the ram. There is two parts to Pesach. That's why this Passover to me will probably be the most significant Pesach since Rabbi Shimon. Because so much has happened in such a short period of time, and tomorrow Persia can take two roads. It can take the road as designated when it says Ra'iti et ayal minagach. You know what that means? He gores. It's not, he's goring. Goring. In order to gore, an ox gores with his horns. Out to destroy, like a bullet, the expression a bull in a china shop, to destroy everything in front of it. That is the objective. Now we know on Pesach we converted the ram. We converted the power of the ram. How? We took the force of Aviv. We think, well, one of the significant aspects of Pesach is to burn the lamb. Burn the lamb. But we don't have the burning of the lamb. They burnt the lamb then. Is that all they did? When they burnt the lamb, took the blood, sprinkled, they slaughtered it, burnt it, and then they sprinkled the doorposts with the buck, and that was what brought freedom. No. Again, what brought freedom was not the fact that they had burnt the lamb and sprinkled the blood, had converted the lamb burnt the lamb, as you learn from the tapes on Pesach, and it is true. We must convert that desire to receive for the self alone, which is the Aries. But how do you do that? How do you do that? You take the idea of spring, and that's why the Torah forgets about Pesach, forgets about the lamb, and only says one word: Shamor et HaChodesh Haviv. This is the month. This is the month. Av Yud Bet. What does spring mean in Hebrew? How do you say spring in Hebrew? Aviv. Why is it spelled Aviv? Why couldn't they use the word candy to describe spring? Why Aviv? In English we say, well, it means spring because everything springs out, comes forth. But in Hebrew, why did they give the word Aviv? So most of you know, because it means Av Yud Bet, the father of the 12 months. In other words, if the next 12 months are to produce things of such a nature that we will not even believe can happen, it is our opportunity now to control it. That king of Persia is going to go out, and he will be the only one who will succeed again in ruling over Israel. No nation in the world will ever control Israel ever again. You don't have to worry. No nation is going to rule, even rule for a day, over Israel. The Persian king, it says, will rule for 12 months. I mean, Rabbi Shimon, you could write 12 months and a half. 13 months. Rabbi Shimon, maybe 11 months? Why are you being so specific? 12 months. Maybe 11, maybe 13, maybe 15.
No, it's true.
How is he so specific?
It's not Carlsberg.
Because Rabbi Shimon is also giving us the message.
And they did. I'm cool though.
When we speak of control,
Yeah,
again, we never mean control
Freezer.
in a negative way. When we speak of control, we are discussing how we can control the cosmos, that the light becomes manifest. We can't control the world for evil. See what happens. Someone who wants to rain destruction on the world takes a fast. A month, 2, that's all they give him for evil. Evil no longer is going to take 10 years like it used to, or 20 years. No such thing. But we have the opportunity to convert that evil aspect when it exists in the world only in Aviv, only on Pesach. It's the only time. On Rosh Hashanah, the only thing we can control is our own lives. Therefore, it's called Rosh Hashanah for the individual. The individual wants good health. That's the time to ensure good health. He wants to have an easy life with less problems. When? Rosh Hashanah. But if we're discussing war, blood, negativity in the world, which we are all going to be affected one way or another by its consequences, there is only one time, says the Torah, Shamor et Chodesh Aviv. Observe this month. What do you mean observe it? I mean watch it. Shamor also means to watch. So I've discussed that at length. Like it says, one who is a Shomer Shabbat, an observer. It's not true. Shomer means to watch. I discussed that in Kabbalah Connection, how the corruption of words came about. You know, when you're Shomer Shabbat, you're a Sabbath observer. What do? You observe it like you observe the star. One who observes the stars in the sky is called an observer. So what are you supposed to do on Shabbat? Watch the Shabbat go by. Observe it. Is that what it means? That's the instrument. That's the instrument. That's the significance. Watch it. Not observe it. Shamor or shomer. You know what a shomer means? One who watches over something. Watch it. Take advantage of it. Use it. Because it is the only tool that we have. And unfortunately, it comes in its most intensified state on Pesach. During the year, we try to take advantage of other cosmic events that can assist us, but nothing will alter the course of history as Pesach can. And there are so few Jews in the world that understand it. Most of the Jews know that. What is Pesach? The family gathering. How even that was so corrupted. Family gathering. I mean, why'd you get together the other 53 weeks of the year? Why gather together one day of the year? Get together 53 days of the year if you really want to be a family unit. No, one day of the year at least. This is the year. Why? So that the significance of what's going on, the Satan, is purely Satan. He works it out so that we'll be satisfied with just sitting with our families together and then observe the year go by without having been able to do anything about it. We are literally so close, and it all depends on what we do. That's why Pesach is so important to us, and everyone should participate. Everyone should participate.
Okay, so I know it was a little bit lengthy, and main idea out of that is that, and this is just a question everyone has to ask themselves: do I live in a reality that I wake up and I see the world, and I see the world in all of its amazingness, and then I go inside of the Torah to kind of understand it, right? That's one way of seeing life, right? Or when I see the world, I see the Torah, and I utilize the literature, the book, as a form of removing my ego that can tell myself that what I'm witnessing is anything other than God all the time. Wow, there was a drone coming right at me, suicide drone. Oh my God, that was it. That was it. Rabbi Mordecai, he's over. He went down. Right? He's a national conversation. The guy who went to Israel and got hit by a drone. God forbid. Right? Is that more miraculous that didn't happen? Or the fact that this bird is chirping outside of my apartment? Or the wind is moving around me? And the sunlight is just perfect enough where I could appreciate this day on such a level. Right? Oh no, the big whoa. Is God speaking to me? What is God saying to me? When I look outside, when I see people, when I hear the conversations, I see nature, I see all these things going on, what is the Torah that God is teaching me today? What is he teaching me today? Now if I learn the Torah, I'm also going to read about different situations, different scenarios, different settings. And guess what? The sages of the Torah teach that all these things have very deep symbolic meanings. Guess what? I could apply that to everything that I see around me. I could apply that to everything that's around me. I can live in a world of wonderment. Not because I'm some billionaire and I could travel all over the world 1,000 times. No, I went in my backyard. I don't need to be a billionaire. I don't need to live in the world of wonderment, but I have to see God in front of me. Not like, oh, God's judging me, he's in front of me. Oh my God, I don't want to sin. That's a rookie level. That's startup.com. Right? Well, I just don't want to mess up. Right? That's like startup level. The real level is I want the connection. I want the pleasure. I want the oneness. I want that deep experience that goes such to the core of connection that I just want to do more mitzvahs. I just want to learn more Torah. I just want more light, right? Because I could be going the opposite way to get that light, getting energy in the wrong way. Okay, now it's time to reverse it. That's the power of Torah. That's the power of this month. That's the power of what we're doing. And everything that we're witnessing right now is just a reflection of our collective consciousness as Jews. Do we want to accept as Jews that it's our time? It's time to bring Mashiach. It's time for us to live in that way. Right? Like, is that where we're at right now? Are we ready to accept that? Right? Are we ready to accept that now is the time for Mashiach? And so we have to start living as if Mashiach is here. We have to live in levels of purity. We have to conduct ourselves in specific ways of kindness, of patience, of love, of different forms of spiritual connections. Right? It's so this is where God's pushing, and I'll leave off on this point. He kind of like goes into this like supernatural state why he's like, I guess why he's dreaming, and he travels to the heavens and he goes up to this like heavenly like yeshiva, right? Because everything has a spiritual replica in the heavens, a spiritual replica in the heavens, right? So everything that we do, like say Rivka has a great business, her business should be continue to be blessed and more pranasa, more pranasa, more pranasa. But the point is there's a spiritual replica of her business in the heavens, right? And so on this level of this world, she has a business and it helps animals this and it makes a profit this type of things. And so it's judged on its ability to bring in new clientele, to provide services, at a certain price, whatever, right? And so these types of things, right? But there's a spiritual expression of her business in her in the heavens that is expressive of how she treats the animals, how she treats her employees, how she, how she conducts herself as a business leader. All these different things. There's that duality of all of us, right? So there's a way that we function in this world, and in that there's a spiritual reflection of us in the higher world that's reflective of how we deal with things in the spiritual world, right? And so what we're saying here is that the story is that there's a spiritual base midrash, right? There's a spiritual yeshiva. And in the spiritual yeshiva in the heavens is where Baal Shem Tov went. And so it's a big story. He goes in, he sees like all these tzaddikim, he sees Rabbi Kiva, he sees Rabbi Meir, he sees all the big, Rabbi Tarfun, Rabbi Gamriel, all these huge people, and he gets all the way back and he sees, the Avos, he sees Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're all the big holy souls are in this particular spiritual school, right? Now, what would be the equivalent for that in this world? Not sure. But nevertheless, he goes up, maybe it's us. I don't know, I'm joking. But the point is just saying like, so that idea, right, is that he goes into this basement, he goes back, he goes all the way to the back of it. And then in the back of the base midrash is the biggest class. And who's leading it? Mashiach, right? And he goes to Mashiach and he says, Mashiach, when are you going to come down? When are you going to come? When are you going to come and save your children? When are you going to come and save Klal Israel? And the Mashiach says about Shem Tov, he says, when more people like you come up here and ask. So this dynamic of wanting the redemption, wanting the geula, right? Wanting that connection. When we have that as a driving force with all the mitzvahs that we do, with all of our actions and how we conduct ourselves, I want Mashiach. I want the redemption now, and I'm going to conduct myself in such a way that I would be fitting to be in the presence of Mashiach. And that's my consciousness. It's not just, oh, I want to do a mitzvah, you know, the Torah says, the Shulchan Aruch says it. See, look, it says it, I got to do it. That's basic. That's the average level. That's not the people who are taking over the Middle East. That's something else. Okay, and then when I say taking over, I'm talking about creating equality, creating resources, creating opportunities, creating inspiration, creating hope. People seeing a new way of living, a new way of functioning. I'm right here in the middle of the desert, right? And we're right in the middle of this whole conversation. Right here. No, but this. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, cool. Anyways, so the point is saying, as we're in the new yeshiva. Hey, we're in a new location. You know, yeshiva's moving. You know, yeshiva's moving. Student base is growing. You know, and we're in the middle of a war, right? And you know, there's times that you know we don't know when it's going to stop, but it's going to stop soon, right? Exactly when, we don't know, right? But anybody want to just throw something in, you know, and then we'll kind of close it out. But it's exciting times. Let's go. Who wants to jump
Can you
in?
hear me, Chief Rabbi?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, so before Sabbath, I guess it was like a day or so before Sabbath, but then going into Sabbath, I was walking, and it was very interesting how you just brought up about what we're seeing around us and the tour around us. I have these two orange trees that I just thought, I said, you know what? I don't know if they are going to survive, if they made it or whatnot. And this was like several months ago, and they just look so dry and just really just like they were gone. They're like dead. And I said, oh, I'm probably going to have to end up, you know, taking those out and replacing them. And literally, like just before Sabbath, I look and I see this green shoot, and I'm like, oh wow, it's alive. But not only was one alive, but the second one was alive as well. And it was very small. Couldn't really see the second one as much. The first one is like overnight. It just like, I'm serious, like 12 inches of growth. And this thing has literally been just no life. Really didn't do much of anything the past couple years. And I said, it's over. We're gonna have to get it out, replace it. But then getting closer to Sabbath, you know, we got the news about what was going on in Israel, and we were, you know, just really deeply concerned, and, you know, of course, just praying and that everyone will be safe. And so it was kind of, you know, it kind of started to weigh on you a little bit. But then I remember talking to the children, and I said, you know what? I said, let's just pray that everybody is, you know, in their safe places, and they're just rejoicing in the Sabbath and just singing praises and so forth. And, you know, let us do that as well. And it just felt good. But I woke up this morning, and that's when we finally got the first, you know, kind of news about how there was some connection, that some destruction had happened in Tel Aviv. And, you know, I looked out and I saw those two little orange trees, and I thought, but there is still hope. You know, that was my mind this morning. I don't know why. It was like, there is still hope, even in the midst of what looks like it's over. Like you know, you have your own thoughts and perspective about different things that's going on around, but Hashem is like you do not have the final say. You know, you're not going to dig this up. You're not going to, replant another. I can make this, into a beautiful, flourishing tree. And that's, I just need your help. And so I said, okay, I need to do a little bit better with, some keeping the grasses around. And it just really had me so encouraged this morning, just looking at those trees and thinking about what Israel as a whole is going through. So that I just wanted to share that little point.
Oh, and and also, if I can, I want to just say this. As you were talking, and you mentioned about that suicide drone, and all of a sudden it just, it's basically like shot down. That's what I guess that's what you were saying. And as you were saying it, it made me think about how we don't recognize or just these glimpses of Mashiach that are in our lives on a day-to-day basis. Now, the thing is that I can imagine just the encouragement and the level that those that were there in your neighborhood, in your community, that witnessed this, because the significance of it is that here was a time that destruction was coming. It's like destruction was like there. It was right there. It was live, and then boom, it's over. And you're alive, and everybody's cheering. We look at that and say, wow, that had to be Hashem's hand. That's the Most High. That's a glimpse of Mashiach, because that's a form of deliverance, that Hashem did something miraculous here. And someone say, well, the jet was already told. Hey, man, that jet could have been anywhere. It could have been anywhere, but it was locked on that target on that time. And just like you looking in between the trees and saying, I can see Hashem, just seeing Shem, that he's there in between the space of those trees. It just made me think about if when you encounter something like that, moving forward, I can produce or be a part of miracles just like that, because that encourages me to say, you know what? Look for ways to do mitzvahs. Look for ways to give charity. Look, go over and above. Because when we do that, when we do chesed and we give charity, or we help people, or we do those things in their lives, and in that moment, they're encountering the same miracle. They're encountering that, and that is glimpses of, because just that story, that's us receiving light from Jerusalem, from where you're at, just that information, and we're ready to share that. We're ready to share that, and not necessarily where we're telling everybody, oh yeah, a rabbi, man, almost but no, but rather, I want to share that miracle. I want to share that by giving to someone else and being a blessing to someone else, and that produces that same type of miracle, and not looking at it in a different way. But man, like we can participate, and that light can just spill over across the world. Just that story just is going to cause light to shine throughout the world. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, no, that was big. A couple thoughts, came, from what you're saying. And it's that idea of like, I just remember when I was younger, I was kind of like when I was, coming out of high school, or when I was in high school, it was the time of like the whole .com era, right? Well, all these internet companies were happening and this, and it was just like, we were growing up and, we watched our parents, make some money, whatever. but we had more ambition than our parents. When I say me, like, new kids, different people. And so when the whole .com thing happened, it was like a new reality, because it was like kids our age, or a little bit older than us, and they were like going out with it. They had ideas about this new, like, all this new internet stuff, and they were going out and, raising hundreds of millions of dollars, creating companies with like $1 billion valuations. And we were like, man, like, bro, like, we got to get a part of that, like, that was like where our mind was at. And we went out, we did certain things, whatever. We did, obviously, I didn't become a billionaire, but the point is just saying, but that was where my head was at when I was like 18, 19, 20, you know what I'm saying? And other things happened prior to that got me to that point. But my point is saying that when you think about like wealth beyond imagination, right? Because it's not about the money. I mean, it's not like about the cash, right? It's not like, okay, I want to make billions of dollars, like, because, I want to buy, a million Mercedes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a point, right? Like it's not a reality, or even houses, or even like, even influence, right? Because money doesn't necessarily give you influence. You know what I mean? It could give you, it could put you in a conversation of gaining influence over time, but in itself, that's why NBA players, have no influence, right? You know what I mean? So the point is just saying that. So the point is just saying that. So, but that was in the frame of Gashmias, right? That was in the frame of this world. But what is that same desire expressed like in the duplicate in the world above, right? That would be a person that says, "Hey, you know what? I want to do this. I want to elevate God's creation." Because all the things that you're saying, like, we do Hesed, we do the mitzvahs, we do all these different things. Ultimately, the only thing that we're doing is fulfilling the purpose of creation. Right? We learn that, right? When we do a mitzvah, when we sit there and we eat a apple, and we see that apple, and we say a bracha before we eat that apple, we fulfill the reason why that apple was created. We fulfilled the reason why Hashem put the pleasure that we receive from eating that apple. It's given into that apple. That's Hashem's pleasure. He put that into that apple to give us pleasure and nourishment. And the same thing with the pineapple, and the same thing with the orange, and the same thing with the banana, right? Hashem put pleasure into these things. So do I accept that? Do I accept that Hashem created this, that Hashem put pleasure into this? Or do I say, no, it's there, it's food, it grows, I take for me, I eat, that's it. No, we're fulfilling when I say that the money I make, a portion of that money is going to go selflessly to help and grow things that are going to benefit the world, right? They're going to help people. So when I have that in mind, that means that the reason why I made that money is to say I'm going to go take 10% of that and put it over there, right? Now I fulfilled the purpose of creation. Hashem gave us money. Hashem gave us the man. Hashem gave us the man in the desert. He's giving us man now. Oh, but I'm working so hard. Okay, you want to tell yourself that? It's called hastaglis. You're just doing the efforts. Istaglut. You're just doing the efforts. Okay, Hashem's giving you. It's decided on Rosh Hashanah. You're just doing the efforts. So how do you gain what you earned on Rosh Hashanah? By staying connected. If you're not at home when the delivery comes, how are you going to eat the food? If you make the efforts to do mitzvot and you want to receive reward or the connection to Hashem, the protection from Hashem, because reward is in the next world, right? So we don't even know what the reward of the mitzvahs are, right? Because we're fulfilling the purpose of creation. Our soul came in this world to correct itself. That's it. Not to eat hamburgers, not to hamburgers. What does that mean? But not to just do physical pleasures, pleasure. No, you're here to transform your soul. And as you transform your soul, you fulfill the purpose of creating. You fulfill the purpose of why you were given this life. You transform your soul. How do I transform my soul? To Torah mitzvahs. That's how I transform my soul. To Torah and mitzvahs. It's not so exciting. Yeah, it is. But you got to get used to getting the energy from the other side. Right? The dark side is easy, right? I could go get on the, bus, because I'm riding on buses. People try to make fun of me for riding a bus. You're like, why are you riding buses in Israel? Why are you riding buses with girls? I'm like, come on, like, no one rides. If you don't work outside of Jerusalem, you don't want to have a car in Jerusalem. Like, if you just live in Jerusalem, you work in Jerusalem, like, you don't want a car. Parking is insane. It's like worse than LA. It's like 3 LAs, right? Anyways, the point is just saying that going forward, right? Because I'm gonna close out because I want to go on this whole other thing. Going forward, if we want to see Mashiach, we have to live in that way now, right? I'm saying experiences I've had. I mean, it's like it's no turning back. We're gone. We're going forward, right? We're moving this forward. We've witnessed near death situations, people around us dying, people murdering each other 2 hours away, babies dying, all this type of stuff. We have to make changes. Hashem put us here, and I'm coming from the African American experience, justice, peace, equality, the whole thing, right? And I'm here in the Middle East. I'm like, this is insane. Like, people are just killing each other. This is insane. No, we got to do something about this. That's it. Let's go. And as what was said, the drone thing is a form of Mashiach. That's a very good connection to that point. It's a form of that redemption component, right? The drone coming down, Nakhlot, going down Nassim Bahar, going down. Everyone's looking. Everyone's on their balcony. We had a whole light up show before that. And we're all sitting there looking like, wait, this thing is just, it keeps coming. And guess what? It ain't nowhere to run to. You know what I mean? You're not out running the drone. It's coming, right? And so I'm closing out this year. And so in closing, right? Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna start diving. We're gonna start diving in. But the point's like this. We have to live in the reality. Imagine putting like young African American. We're here. Like we have to make changes. We have to push these ideas out. People are dying. This isn't I want to. I'm doing a good deed. No, like people are really dying. Like it's a real thing. Like it's an unbelievable concept. Like to live in, right? As an American citizen, it's a drive-by shooting. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the type of stuff we do. A drive-by shooting. Somebody came. Okay, innocent person got hit. Maybe a kid got. Well, we're all crying. Everyone's upset. Maybe a kid goes crazy. He goes to take a gun to school. He starts shooting. Horrible things happen. But this. You have Hamas literally putting civilians and using them to be murdered so they could prove that we can't even imagine it's really happening. This is a real thing. The level of that the citizens live in this region by an ideology. We can't even imagine. They're marrying children. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can't even imagine the level of darkness. And it's not directed toward any religious group. You can find darkness everywhere. What I'm saying is, what is my focus going forward as a kid who grew up with billion-dollar fantasies, right? As a kid. So the real desire of that is to do billions and billions of mitzvahs and good things in the world. That's the real reality. When Yosef was a child and he had a dream, when his dream manifested, no, I'm here to unify everybody. That's when he was in kingship. So anyways, any last thoughts, any last reflections before we close this off? Because any second sirens could go off. This is the life we're living now, and that. But any last thoughts? Any last reflections? Okay, so all right, so everyone's wiped out. All right, so continue to play with us, please. More mitzvahs, Please, we have to live in a frame that Mashiach is here now. We have to live that way now. We have to live. Mashiach is here now. I don't know where he's at, but thank you. But you want to add anything on that, Rivka? Anything you want to say? No, you guys. Okay, so everybody.
Stay safe.
Right, go ahead.
Stay safe, Rav.
Ariel.
Yeah, stay safe, Rob.
Yeah,
You're very worried.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
very
yeah,
worried.
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
friends all over Israel, and I'm absolutely worried for their safety. As you said, the drone came so close to you, so close to you. Oh, it's scary. Because I'm sure Ariella, Leslie, myself, we've never experienced anything like this. We've never experienced, even Juliet, we've never experienced this.
Nowhere close.
Nowhere close. Even a week of fighting with Pakistan is nothing compared to what you guys go through every day. Every day. Really.
Yeah, praise the
So
Lord.
just take care.
Something about you, because I'm pretty sure I might have messed up something.
Okay. So all right. So yeah. So no, I appreciate those words of encouragement. I'm saying like this: you guys in India, you guys in America, you guys in Indonesia, right? You guys are doing mitzvahs. Visualize a protection shield over Israel when you're doing it. You visualize protection shields. Learn toward together with you guys, couples. You guys learn toward together and visualize the light coming over Israel. You have the power to protect us, right? I mean, obviously everything's from Hashem, right? But Hashem is you giving us the opportunity to use our free will, right, to protect. So you guys can protect us. We're fighting here, but you guys have less resistance in that way. We're on the front line of the battle. You guys are in a battle too. So you guys have to cast out a protection shield over the entire state, all the Jewish people around the world. Everyone is in danger right now, right? Because we're making big moves. This is like when you it's like on the Gashmi stuff. It's like when you make a certain amount of money, you got to have security with you now, right? That's what's happening now. We're going to the top, and the world's going crazy because we're showing that the God of Israel is the only God of this world, and all of the other ideologies are sheker. And we are back, and we're purifying ourselves, and part of that purification is what we're experiencing with casualties and other things, right? And all the horrible things. But nevertheless, it's happening, right? But we need you guys everywhere. We're all